Hey John, yeah, nice talking to you yesterday. I think yeah, the lap looks pretty good. Car looks a lot of fun to drive. Looks really pointy and edgy and really responsive to your input. So yeah, I'm sure it looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, I think like we talked about, you said one of the bigger things was sort of patience, turning in early, going to power early, and hopefully some of what we kind of talk about a bit maybe isn't directly related to patience, but will hopefully blend the corner phases together better to where maybe patience doesn't need to be a thing. I think you always want to be doing something, so maybe the way that we drive the entries will uh, put the car in a position to where you can't really go to that maintenance throttle or try to stab the throttle or something, and uh, and make the corner kind of just blend together a bit better. So I think there's a couple of situations that we can talk about that will help with that, and hopefully that carries over to all of the corners that we were kind of discussing. So we'll start with turn one. Um, Looks good. I think the braking looks really nice. Nice big initial hit, trail off, and then turn in. Um, and I think there's probably just a tiny bit, 5-10 meters, not much at all, to brake later, just because of the amount of trail off you're able to do here. And something I love when we have the accelerometer thingy on here. So you'll see your braking goes, all the way up to whatever this is, or however many G's this is, and then it kind of follows this sort of path through the corner. And that's the entry to mid corner. So when you brake, let me change my pen here. When you brake, you get really nice big hit, and then you kind of trail off nicely. But I think you're able to trail off a little too much, because then you have this big dip in here. And I think, there's always going to be that dip. It's never going to be following this right around the that radius. But I think there's probably a bit more or something like that to be able to go through the corner. So what that means is uh, carrying a bit more speed on entry. So see how the red line follows or red dot follows the red line there. And then you get into the middle of the corner, you kind of get back out there. So I think by braking later, you'll be forced to carry more brake pressure through sort of this phase of the brake zone all the way to here. And then what that'll do is you'll have a bit more speed here. So you won't want to go back to maintenance throttle. But I think, mid to exit, everything looks good. I think just that entry, you probably have a little bit, uh, it's not a lot of lap time. It's a little bit there. So just something to try. Turn two, I wrote, try slower lift to move the balance more slowly. Quick speed adjustments seem to reposition the car, but result in not being able to go to power smoothly and in one motion here. So turn in, lift, throttle. So it's yeah, I think it works. I think this is sort of the first example of, like, just in general, the speed of your inputs. Because you can see as soon as you do that lift, do that quick lift, and the rear pivots, and you can see it right here. Watch right there, that wiggle. So like that's how you're getting your rotation, is by really provoking the front to go in with that quick lift. And I think you can do it with a bit of a slower lift, just to pull the front in instead of really trying to flick the car. So it's also not a lot of lap time, but instead of throttle looking like that, maybe maybe it looks like this. something like that. So still getting the front end, but maybe sooner, because it looks like uh you know a little bit wide of the curb, and I think the slower lift gives you not so sometimes I talk about like having like a reserve or a certain amount of weight transfer that you can do, and the quicker you do your weight transfer, the quicker you use all of that. I'd call it like weight transfer credit. So if you do a quick lift and you're zero throttle, all the weight transfer happens in one quick motion, and then it's going to start coming back up because it's going to go back towards it's neutral. Whereas the slower you do it, you might not get as much magnitude, as much weight transfer, but it delays it further through the corner. So whereas yours is a flick, maybe it can be more of like a slower sort of loading. And that example, I think we'll talk about more throughout the lap of how quickly we do those things. And again, not a lot of lap time there. Here, turn 3, I think there is a bit of lap time. So the corner's so long, I don't know if it's worth using this late apex. And I don't know if that cone's in the greatest spot. So I think the corner's so long that you don't get the benefit of setting up with a late turn in. So by turning in late and kind of a sharper turn in, you have to slow the car more because you're not able to combine the brake and steering quite so much at your turn in point. So if this is your brake trace, so just a very normal looking brake trace. I think with so I think we can do something like the green. So braking later, and then let's put steering up there as well. So this is a very rough drawing. So as this goes down, you're turning to the left, and then same with the red. So it's not a great drawing, but I think it'll give you an idea. So with the red one, you can't combine that quick steering angle with so much brake pressure. So you can't do both. But with the green one, by turning in earlier, you'll be able to brake later and sort of deeper into the corner. So I'm going to delete those drawings. So at this point, you're already kind of bending the car in, just getting to that curb really early, and then maybe having to overslow the middle a bit. But I think you can gain a lot of lap time on the entry. So if we're looking at speed traces, just to show you another visual. So this would be it probably looks more like that. That's what we have already. And I wish I could delete one. So just forget about this one here. So it'll be a later brake, maybe a little less min speed, and then similar exit. And I just think that there's all this lap time to gain here, this area between those two curves, by carrying more speed in. So, and another way to think about or to look at that would be, so here, your car positioning is here. Your car's very well rotated. I think with the suggestion, you're going to be, you might be pointed more that direction. but with a lot more speed. And maybe using the curb a bit to help rotate the car. It's just a very different approach. But then by this point, see here where you are in the corner, you almost have to straighten your hands, go to power, turn again, where the other line is going to be more of a V. And just last drawing, I promise. Just draw the corner. It kind of does this. The radius kind of opens up. This is what we're doing. Something like that. So this is like this is exaggerated, the late aggressive turn in, and then you have the car going in this direction, mid corner, where I think this is sort of what I'm proposing. Something like that, where you've kind of turned in really early, using some apex curve, and then maybe killing a bit more min speed, but getting back online mid to exit. So your rotation point is coming much later in the corner. But the car is always sort of doing something. And I think here your car positioning might actually be better. If we go to the video. So by this point where you're kind of in no man's land, sort of this way, sort of having to be patient with the throttle. I think by doing a bit of a V, hopefully by this point you've got a bit of a different angle there. So speed trace wise, min speed is down, but your car positioning should be better. And I think the main lap time game will come on the entry. But again, something to try, not to say it's 100% the way to go, just something to try. And I think maybe there's a middle ground. But I do think that you're sacrificing a lot of entry speed by trying to get that late turn in. Here, everything looks good. Line looks good. This is going to be the first situation where we talk about like the patience on throttle. So we always want something to do. And this is a good example of that, like weight transfer credit almost. So the weight transfer has been done. Car's rotating and you already want to go to throttle. But it's kind of feathering. It's kind of one, all the way out, and then here you're flat. My idea or my thought is, here's what it seems like the data would look like. So normal brake, this, and then picking up throttle. It's just kind of a long throttle application. So then here's, again, it's a similar sort of situation. It might be something like this. Okay, and I'm sure it's not going to be that big of a difference on throttle, but it's just to sort of talk about the principle. So I think a softer, longer brake will extend your rotation through the corner. So whereas here you get this quick rotation, and then you don't have anything to do with your feet. And if you don't, so since the weight's already been transferred and the speed is already at the apex speed, it doesn't make sense to be patient, because patience is just going to kill the minimum speed. Your speed's just going to keep dropping as the longer you wait on throttle. So it's not worth waiting on throttle either. I don't think that's the answer. I think by extending the brake zone with a softer initial brake, you've got more speed going in. So you reach that minimum speed later in the corner, and you don't have a choice to go to maintenance throttle because the speed will be dropping as you've kind of extended that weight transfer through the corner. So the green line, let's say the red line, your car attitude, looks like this on entry. The green line, just as a visual, will just be like the car's a little flatter, the weight's still on the nose, but you've got that attitude all the way up until here, where with the red line, you're off the brakes, over here. So you've extended that all the way through, and because it's a lighter brake, you haven't overslowed the corner either. So for me, that's the idea I'd like to get across. If you have enough speed and the car attitude matches the corner radius, you won't want to crack throttle so soon, or you won't have that feeling. You'll still be able to be impatient, I guess I should say, but it's going to make sense. It's going to fit the corner. The corner phases are going to flow together. And maybe a little bit of line, maybe the line is going to have to go with it a bit. Like maybe with that line, it's a bit of an earlier turn in with a bit slower hands, but your line looks good. I just think that as the brake shape changes, the line is going to probably somewhat go with it. That was turn 5. Now we're at 6. 6 looked good. 7, again, try lighter brake, not to transfer weight longitudinally quite as much. Hopefully this helps to roll more speed in, and when you go back to power, the weight transfer won't be as jarring. So you can actually see the nose dip. Yeah, that was almost as hard of a brake as turn 1. So you got, all the way up here. Turn 1 was, right at the line. So that's a very hard brake for this type of corner. And I definitely think that for these medium and high speed corners, instead of, the normal textbook braking trace, it's got to be something smoother to keep the car flat and roll the speed. Especially because it's kind of a longer entry, and in this sort of corner, something that might, although it looks damp, so I don't know if it's just the dampness that's kind of, you're feeling it out. So maybe on a different lap it would have looked different, but in general, so just as an overall for this type of corner, I'd say when you're experimenting, fix one of the inputs. And I always like to fix my hands on pretty much most types of corners. Hand speed is going to be pretty similar. So for this type of corner, having a nice smooth steering trace where your hands are just going to do what they're going to do, and then you play with your brake trace to go with it. And you do the timing with your feet. With how hard the brake was in this situation, all the timing of the corner has to be done with your hands, and it's really hard to nail a high-speed corner timing wise because you're going fast, and to get the turn-in point just right. And if your hands are following, the limit of the tire, it's much easier to time the corner with your feet to almost pull the car to the racing line rather than try and nail the racing line with your hands. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way I would like to think of it. And also with a lighter brake and not so much weight transfer, having the car a bit flatter versus, with a lot of attitude, it's likely going to feel much calmer. The front's not going to be as responsive. So you're going to be able to induce a bit of understeer, and just kind of know where the limit is. And then lap after lap, you kind of dial that in and get the line right after that. So the S's, oops, sorry. I think you nailed it. A little bit early turn in is what you told me on the phone. You knew exactly what you'd done. So early turn in here. So you end up really early for the second one. And I think 99% of guys that I coach would have just kept barreling in speed and earlier and earlier apexes. So like I draw this picture for VIR every single time. Let's draw it for this direction now. It's just, this isn't going to follow the shape of the corners properly, but I always draw this graph, and it goes like early turn in, and then earlier turn in, earlier turn in, and then by the end you've got like this really tight corner. And I think what you did really well, and then so obviously this is ideal, you know, getting around the backs. And I think what you did well was you identified that you were on this line, and when you got to the second one, you corrected. You got back, you transferred back onto the yellow. So you'll see here, you do a nice job of like getting around the back of it still, and then boom, you're back on. Right on line there, right on line here. And it's good. So that was really good. I think you know exactly what you need to do. So I'm not even going to talk about it. And I think, yeah, I think next time you go, it's just a matter of nailing that first one. And maybe it's a matter of that same thing we talked about with sort of hand speed for those high speed corners of doing the timing more with your feet, because it is hard to nail that timing if you're just trying to nail it with your hands. What is this? 15 looks good. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That looked really good. Oh yeah, similar to T5 here. A bit more speed will push your rotation point a bit later to not tempt you to go to maintenance throttle. So I think, yeah, just lighten this brake up and let the car just scrub a bit with the front. Just let it scrub and then pull it back in, either with a lift or a light brake, just to get around the back of that apex. And then this is such a confusing sequence here. And all I wrote was using the pedals more gently will make the car not quite as twitchy. Seemed like you tried to provoke the car with to turn with the brake, and it snapped. And then similar thing on throttle. So you're going through here, really long corner. It's probably understeering, and then you try and really flick the car in, and it snaps. So I think if you were to, I'm sure that didn't happen every lap, but just be really mindful of that same thing, of your speed of your inputs. And I think this is another great example of your hands are probably going to be fixed, because if we're talking about like the traction circle and oops, sorry. We're talking about the traction circle, and you are, let's just draw an orange. And you're trying to follow this line like this. That's just sort of keeping one static steering angle. So, you know, realistically, you want that to be kind of doing a bit of this. So you're kind of feeling the front and you're kind of adjusting throughout the corner. And so if we draw it as a flat line, like this is the limit of the tire, you know, you want sort of this, or I'd always tend to be a little over, and then you pull it down, and then you find it, and then you're kind of there. And to me, that looks like a static steering, or like a very smooth steering angle. So you're following that limit of the tire with that smooth steering angle, and then the way that you're pulling it back down to the right level is just with your pedals. And so keeping that steady steering angle, or like that, whatever steering angle is following the limit of the tire, as you sort of turn into the corner, using the brake or using the lift to pull the front in. And I think this corner is a perfect corner for that, where, you know, you can't just add steering wheel and you can't take out steering wheel. So you've got the idea where you're using the brake, but I think what has happened is you were here, you were right, that's drawn in red, you're right here, you're doing this, but then if this circle is the front tire, you did this by braking heavily. So you really gave the front, or really what you did, to be more accurate, is you did this. You made the circle bigger by braking. So you gave the front more grip. Let's draw that better. So you did that. So then, you know, the front gained grip, and then it bit and it snapped. So by braking lighter, you know, that circle stays similar, but the rear doesn't get quite as light, and you'll be able to time the corner a little bit more gradually. And then going out, it actually looked good. I think had it not snapped going in, you probably would have looked okay going out. It's a bit aggressive, and then you had to kind of come back out of it, but I don't have a big problem with the exit. Anyway, hopefully that wasn't too long. I know it was our first time doing a video, so I wanted to go through everything, and hope you have a great weekend, and hopefully we talk again soon. Thanks. And don't forget, if you want to ask any questions on the messaging thing, feel free, and I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. Thanks, John. Bye-bye.